Hi, I'm Joe Vegliante. How are you out there today? Today I have a special guest, and the reason I have this guest, I've been hearing about Dave Yaccarino for a long time. Who is Dave Yaccarino? What does he do? Well, I'm going to know. We're going to find out today what he is and who he is. Dave, welcome to my show.
Joe, thanks for having me today.
Dave, I'm going to ask you questions that come to mind.
Okay.
Who are you?
Well, obviously I'm Dave Yaccarino. I grew up in North Haven, Connecticut. I went to school in North Haven, Connecticut, and I raised a family here in North Haven, Connecticut. I also make my living in North Haven, Connecticut.
You have a business in North Haven, Connecticut?
Yes, I've had a business for 19 and a half years. Right on Route 5, across McDonald's, DJ Sports Collectibles and Comics, and gift shop.
And you started it yourself?
Started about 19 and a half years ago, yes.
19 years ago, 19 and a half years ago. You employ a couple people?
Right now, I just hired one person, Ben Gritz, and
Yep.
I just have my youngest son helps me part-time.
So basically,
Two people.
Two people and yourself, which is good. Now, could you imagine if we have 1,000 people, small businessmen like you, that hire two people, how many people that would be?
That'd be nice.
It'd be a lot of people. I don't believe in these big automotive companies where they have $50 billion they borrow and it's all our money that they're giving us back and they're not giving it to us back. Small business is what America is made out of.
Well, small to mid-sized business is really the engine of our economy. It has been really for the last 150 years approximately.
Okay, let's get to serious business now. You want to run for state rep, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Why?
I am actually running for state representative of the town of North
You're
Haven.
running now. Why do you want to run?
I feel the man we have there now is a nice person, but he's not representing North Haven at its best interests.
Okay.
We have.
What would you do if you got elected?
First and foremost, I would listen to the citizens. I've been walking for approximately 3.5 months now at the present time. And from that, I would represent North Haven as a whole, not just for the Democrats and not just for the Republicans, but the majority of voters in North Haven are unaffiliated independent voters. They actually outnumber Republicans and Democrats. You could add all the Democrats and Republicans up, and they still don't equal the number of the independents and unaffiliated. And what I would do is fight for what the needs of North Haven are. And if we could get into that if you want to, further in the show.
I always say that the average voter now has an IQ, not that they're not super intelligent, they have business, they have everything. When it comes to elections and voting, they really don't know. They have an IQ of a 12-year-old when it comes to voting. I always say that, and I challenge anybody on that. Oh, what do you mean by that? Well, God, you can put Mickey Mouse up on some towns, and they'll automatically vote for Mickey Mouse because they're in a certain party, and that's what they've been voting all their lives. They don't know what's behind the scenes. Now, if you really read a little bit what's going on, of course, our country right now is really bad, who we have for president right now. I'm worried for our dear country. I went in the Army, fought for our American rights, our American way, and it's being taken away a little at a time, and I am annoyed. And so are many other people annoyed. Now, someone like you're going to go in with a refreshed mind. You say, I want to do things that are right.
Yeah, I think most people have those intentions, and I'd hope they'd have those intentions. But
okay, I'll tell you what annoys me, and I'm speaking for the average person because I speak to a lot of people. A lot of people call me up, and they call my show up, and we talk about things. Taxes. Now, we pay a lot of taxes, and I'm not cheap. I'm conservative. Conservative doesn't mean you're cheap. I want 110% for my dollar. That's being conservative. That's the way a wise man spends his money. Now, we're paying taxes, and we're paying a lot of taxes. I don't blame the people who are running our town hall now. I'm very happy we have a new selectman in there. He is a businessman. He's going to operate. He's operating like a business. You are a businessman. I want to see a businessman operate your position like a business. Now, tell me what to do. The first thing you're going to do if you get elected and go up there.
Well, in all honesty, the first thing I'm going to do is as a junior representative, I'd have to listen. I'd have to see how the system works. But ultimately, stating and being clear in my conviction that North Haven's needs will always be met first. So that would be the main goal of a state representative. There's many functions and facets. The main goal is representing their community, their town or the city they live in. So I'll say a few things. Right now we're lagging behind most other municipalities as far as education cost sharing dollars. Now, being a minority member, I'd have to build relationships with the majority party and work to make it a fair code, a fair formula for all communities, and things of that nature, and look at the energy costs we have, the energy taxes we're paying.
Right. What I hear sometimes is it's mandated that Hartford mandates, and now when they say Hartford, they mean people that are elected up there, that we have to do this and this. If you mandate it, give us the money to do it. Don't let the taxpayer in North Haven pay for your mandates, because that's wrong.
Well, what happens is at the state level, there's unfunded mandates and there's funded mandates. At the present time, the state legislators voted for unfunded education mandates. It's President Obama's race to the top was his Education Secretary Duncan. The problem with the race to the top is it's more testing, less education. And there's communities and communities and school systems that already meet those goals and standards. So we will not get the funding for that most likely. The concept of higher education and better test scores is great, but it starts with education, with teaching, through books and textbooks and teacher and students. So that unfunded mandate, it's an expensive program that's not funded, and most likely we'll never get funding for that. And what happens there is it affects the tax base of our municipality and any other municipality, because we have to pay for that liability, basically. And I've yet to meet a teacher. I've been walking for 3.5 months. I've yet to meet a teacher that thinks it's a good, thought-through plan. Some states it might be good, but North Haven, Connecticut, and most Connecticut municipalities, it really doesn't seem to suit us well.
When I went to school many years ago, we had some old books that we read out of. We didn't have all this fancy stuff you have today. You know, you have to have this, you have to have that. No, we learned hard reading, writing, arithmetic, as they called it.
Right.
And with that, a lot of us went on higher and higher and higher. We have all these fancy names for a lot of studies they have, and I don't know what the hell they really mean. And it's a waste. A lot of stuff is a waste of money. And I believe in test scores. But before we have test scores for the kids, I believe we should test the teachers, see if they're good enough to teach. Oh, I'm going to get a lot of calls for saying that. I don't care. But the teachers have to be smarter than the pupil. Isn't that right? Yeah,
I would say, most are. I know the teachers in North Haven and Connecticut generally are very good teachers. The questions you're asking me now, obviously it's easy for me to talk because I'm not elected. When I'm elected, you have to look at these situations. You really have to look objectively and see if it benefits that community or your community. And then have a dialogue with the teachers or the Board of Ed and see what works and what doesn't work, what they feel works and doesn't work.
Okay, let's assume you got elected today, tomorrow, whenever the heck
November
it is.
2nd.
Yeah, okay, you know the dates
2nd,
too, that's good.
2010.
Your first thing is to go to Hartford, I guess, and get acquainted where your desk is.
Yes, that happens sometime in the month of January of 2010, or excuse me, December 2010. Or
what are you going to do difference that my dear friend has a position now is doing?
I've been saying this since I've decided to run, is really represent North Haven as a whole. I'll continue to go back to, we have unaffiliated Democrats, Republicans. I'm a registered Republican, but I will never put my party before the people of North Haven. The whole idea of a representative is to represent the town as a whole. Knowing that, if you look at even our Constitution, the goal is to do the most good for most of the people, most of the time. It's unrealistic. It is not a realistic statement to say you could help everybody, because it's just not going to happen. So your goal should be doing the most good for the most people most of the time.
But mostly the people in North Haven. You're representing North Haven. You're representing me. I want you to do the best for me and my people in North Haven.
The concern is always North Haven. Now that you vote on legislation, for either taxes, different laws, any form of legislation or budgetary votes.